Welcome, one and all, to the Sunday Show After Dark, the Sunday show that happens after the Sunday show happens, the show that you are currently tuned into. Oh my glob, I have never had a bad day, and that's a shout out to Life is Literary in chat, who right before the show started said every time I say one of those phrases, they'll do 5 push-ups. You're going to have a bad night. Tonight, I am joined by my dear friend Justin from Deconstruction Zone. How are you doing today, amigo mio?
I couldn't be doing better, Forrest. I'm glad to be on a screen again with you. It's going to be an absolute blast. I'm sure the callers are already piling in to tell us how science confirms the Bible, and I can't wait to see it.
It's serious. I can't wait either. I put out a video a little while ago, a clip of me and Jovan laughing at some transphobe who didn't know what chromosomes were. And I've got a ton of people who are really excited to call in, or at least you'd assume, based on my comment section, we've got a ton of people who are really excited to call in and tell me what a woman is. I'm excited about that. I also have a video on TikTok right now talking about how evolution works and how natural selection works. And you'd assume by the comment section that I've got a lot of people who are going to call in and tell me that evolution isn't real and how give me some evidence for creationism. And I can only imagine that you have just as many people who are going to tell you all about the Bible and how it makes total sense and how it's univocal and consistent, and tells the same
not a
story
single contradiction.
No, and then it only means love and truth. I'm excited for all of those calls. For those of you who don't know about this show, who are just tuning in for the first time, first things first, today is September the 14th in the year of our Dark Lord 2025. I'm trying to remember to say that at the beginning of the shows. And we've got a great lineup of other shows this week. I will pull up those here in just a moment and tell you what else is coming on this week for you to watch. In the meantime, for this show, I want everybody to know that this is a call-in show for you to talk to us. If you are a Christian or a theist of any kind, preferably Christian, because we do live in America and that's what we're surrounded by the most. And also you have 2 people who have experience with Christianity, but any kind of theist at all. This is a chance for you to talk to people who don't believe in that stuff and actually have good reasons not to believe in that stuff, instead of just staying behind the computer screen, just watching things that rage bait you, get you angry, get you thinking negative thoughts about everybody. You can actually have a serious conversation. If you are a creationist, this is a show for you. If you're a flat earther, this is a show for you. If you're a transphobe or a homophobe, this is the show for you. You can call in and talk to 2 people who actually talk about this stuff for a living. And I promise you, we're very nice as long as you are. We try to match the caller's energy as much as we can. So if you're out there and you have questions, comments, concerns, issues with atheism, with leftism, with socialism, with whatever other ism has got you all fired up today, this is your chance to talk to people who may or may not embody some of those things and actually learn something, have a productive conversation. Really quickly, I've got the show schedule here. It was in a different place than I expected it, so I had to pull it up. Tomorrow, we've got Skeptalk with Gutsit Gibbon and Aaron Adair. Then we've got Chewed Gum with Alyssa and Taylor. Then we've got The Hang Up with Matt Dillahunty and Aaron Adair. Then we've got TACIS with Josie and Luxander. And finally, swinging back around to next week on Sunday, we've got Matt and Erica on the Sunday show, and me and Eric from Skeptics and Scoundrels on the Sunday show After Dark. So tune in for all those things, or don't. I'm not a cop. But I want you to be entertained is all I care about. And I want you to be educated, and I want you to have a fun time discussing stuff and learning things. So once again, number on the bottom of the screen, 720-619-2288, or use the web link in the description. If you are a theist or have some issue with some sort of science, or want to take up a serious discussion about the current political climate, it's unfortunate how many people were having to remind the difference of not mourning someone's death and being happy about murder right now. apparently it's a foreign idea that those are different concepts at this moment. This is the show. Call into it. Talk to us. We're here to talk to you. That's our favorite thing in the world. I agree with T. Jefferson in the chat. More and more Tisha, please. We need to get a hold of her. We've already got several calls coming in, but we're waiting on them to be screened and put into our actual queue. In the meantime, do you have anything you wanted to shout out, Justin, while you're here? Anything you wanted to promote, talk about, whatever? Okay, great. Thanks.
Sounds like we got some people waiting to get in. If you're wanting to talk to us, I just realized
I don't know if the audience heard that, but it's fine.
I know. They might not have heard the announcement. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
If you want to talk to us, the queue is filling up fast. So don't wait for an hour and a half from now to call in. Get yourself in line, because we'd hate for you to wait all this time, then call in 45, half hour, hour and a half from now, and then not be able to get in. So I think the lines are going to fill up fast tonight, friends. So, but listen, we'd love to talk about anything with you. We want to talk about certainly whale evolution. I see somebody in the conversation already talking about whale evolution. Love to talk to you guys about why God created his own enemy and then just lets them run amok. I'm sure that makes a lot of sense to some of you. And maybe we'll cover why God created dinosaurs just to kill them all off.
It's just to tempt us. It's just to trick us. You know, that's what it all is about.
It was
unless you believe in answers. Yeah, unless you follow Answers in Genesis, who say that they were literal dragons who could fly and breathe fire, and that all the stories about knights in shining armor are actually based on reality. That's a fun time as well. I had one guy I frequently have pointed out. Sorry, go ahead.
So you could go to route and just say that all the dinosaur bones are fake and no dinosaurs ever existed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, these are all. I saw that one. Somebody was like, "Here's this pile of rocks, and I'll give you a big grant if you can make them look like a skull." And that's what scientists do. And it's like, no. But fucking, what was I saying? The right. Answers in Genesis. I make videos about them quite frequently. They're a cult. They're a cult of people who believe in that the Bible is word for word literal, but only their preferred version and translation and interpretation of it is word for word literal. And because of that, they believe in some genuinely wacky things, and their whole, like, the way that they get suckers, the way that they reach out to people, is to say that evolution isn't real, and all their content is all about debunking evolution, and they do a fucking terrible job at it. Most of the time they're just lying or making something up. The times that they're not, they're misinterpreting real scientific data or claiming that they know more than every scientist in the entire world because they can just feel things. It's weird. But when you get past that veneer,
the Holy Spirit told them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yes. Once you get past that, once you buy into that little bit, then you are confronted with the belief that unicorns are real and dragons are real and women should be submissive to their husbands and follow what it says in, like, Timothy and shit about not being, outspoken, not having positions of leadership, and that all these other, and also the Earth is only 6,000 to 10,000 years old or something. I forgot exactly what their date is. And that Jesus must be a Middle Eastern man. That's why he looks extremely white in everything that they put out. And it's just like this, all these things that are just bogus and dangerous and crazy beliefs. And I get comments all the time,
eat your words when Caucasian Space Jesus comes back this month. Just saying.
Yes, absolutely. And this will be the time that he does it too. They are crazy, and they drive me up a wall. But I get comments all the time from people saying, like, "Oh, you're so hard on them." It's like, no, just look into them. And I say all this because I hope one of those people who leaves comments on my Instagram all the time asking me why I'm so hateful to Answer in Genesis, why I call in. This is your chance. Lines are already full-ish right now, so we're gonna go ahead and jump in here in just a second. But I just want to point out, this show, we're shooting for like somewhere between 2 or so hours ish. So we're going to get through calls as we can. If we drop a call, use the number on the bottom of the screen. Like, if you get a busy signal, just wait till we're done with the call back in. I'm down to jump right in. What about you?
Let's do it. I think taking the phone calls quicker is going to be better, because I think we're going to have a full load of calls tonight. I see them already piling in.
All right, sounds good. Let's talk to Chris Pronouns he, him, calling in from Puerto Rico, who wants to talk about the coherence of gospel messages. Chris, you're on the line with Forrest and mostly Justin. How are you doing today?
Yeah, hello. Do you remember me?
Vaguely,
Chris?
yes.
Yeah. By the way, Justin, do you recognize
sound like
that
Goat.
I am Goat?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep,
Okay.
I know
Well,
you are.
it's good to. What?
I know who you are. Yep.
You know who I am, right?
Yeah, you're Goat from TikTok.
Yeah, exactly. Good to talk to you guys once again. I tried to talk to you last week in this experience, but I came late.
Okay. Happens. Well, welcome back. So, what's in your mind? You've got something about the Gospels?
Oh yeah. Well, technically not the gospel, but the gospel message. That was actually my main thing that I wanted to talk about. But before that, I had two quick points that I wanted to get around before we get to the longer points, cause that just so that we can cover the maximum amount of things that we can in this short time if you're not bothered.
I think I made out most of those words. It sounds like it. Just go ahead and jump into the topic if you don't mind.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, I wanted to talk to Forrest. Did you hear me, Forrest?
I can hear you just fine.
Yeah. Okay. I was watching some of your videos regarding some clips about you, and I actually had curiosity about one thing. I remember you in one of your videos. You mentioned that there were like 40,000 Christian denominations.
Yeah, there's over 40,000 recognized denominations of Christianity. And the reason why I bring that up is because whenever someone calls and says they're a Christian, I want to know what they mean by that, because I very often get accused by Christians of misrepresenting their faith when all I'm doing is repeating what a different Christian has said to me.
Yeah, I agree that there are a lot, but let's check that, because I actually investigated those numbers, and turns out that that specific number of 30,000 or 40,000, blah blah, comes from a study from the World Christian Encyclopedia. And the problem with using that number is that when that encyclopedia defines denomination, they basically define it not by belief, but basically by presence. Basically, according to the encyclopedia, a denomination is an organized aggregate of worship centers or congregations of similar ecclesiastical traditions within a specific country. So basically, you can have two churches that believe the exact same thing, but if one is in United States and the other is in Mexico, this encyclopedia will count it as two denominations.
So the source that I had for it, that I don't remember exactly where I got it, but I did just pull up one that probably references it, is from the Center for the Study of Global Christianity at Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary, globalchristianity.org. So this was their study from back in 2019. That's one of the places that I this looks really familiar. Again, I don't know exactly where I got that, but I'm pretty sure this was one of the places. Here's another one. Yes, this is actually, I have the link here is purple. So this is actually definitely where I got it, and it is from that exact same seminary. So this was a study from Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary back in 2019 is where I got that number. What's important to remember is whether or not you accept that number, whether or not you believe that that number is accurate or you don't like the way that it was tabulated, doesn't really change anything about the point that I'm making, which is that every single Christian has their own particular version of what they think Christianity is and means. And we have here in America a church on every other street corner. So if you don't like the type of Christianity that's being taught at this one, you just walk a mile down the road and you have a totally different kind of Christianity being taught to you. And even different Christianity, even different churches within the same denomination have vastly different messages. So if I talk to two Christians on this show, I guarantee they have different beliefs about Christianity. That's the main message that I'm trying to get out there by referencing this study of 40,000 denominations.
Yeah, I understand that point, and I do agree that there are like too many of Christian denominations. I just wanted to make sure that we don't overblow the numbers. Actually, this very study says that there are 300 major ecclesiastical traditions, which I think that is what actually means by nation.
So Chris,
it's good to be critical of studies, but like, I don't know if this changes anything.
Yeah, just to be clear, the number isn't relevant. I just want to be very clear on this. Like, whether it's 40,000 or 40, that's not relevant at all. What's relevant is that Christians can't actually agree on what they believe.
Yeah, and I myself recognize that that's a problem. I just wanted to make sure we don't overblow stuff. I like accuracy.
Sure. So did you have an actual argument in mind for God tonight?
No, yeah, I just wanted to get over that. The second point I actually wanted to talk about is because Forrest, in a lot of his videos, yes?
I'm surprised it was me again. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Well, it's adjusting. I remember I heard you guys a lot of times criticize the Christians for believing on the basis of faith. And when I see that, I wonder, what do you guys define faith as, and why do you think it's problematic to believe on the basis of faith? Faith. And that.
Justin, do you want to go first on this one? Because I'm sure you have a more eloquent answer than I would.
I didn't even hear what he said. If you could repeat the question, that'd be helpful.
He asked how we define faith.
Faith is defined in Hebrews chapter 11. Do you want me to read it for you? It's verse 1, if I remember correctly. So if you go to Hebrews 11, the standard interpretation is that it's the assurance of things hoped for and the conviction of things not seen. So basically, it's a belief without evidence.
Yeah,
I would say about the same. Me without my Bible knowledge, without a Bible knowledge, I would say yes. I would define faith as believing in something that you have no evidence or bad evidence for.
Yeah, I understand that. Well, when I read that verse, I don't think that it actually means without evidence. I think that when it says things not seen, it does not mean without evidence. It just means
Chris.
Yes. Okay.
Chris. It's not a flat statement from Hebrews 11. It's an entailment of Hebrews 11, which is if the faith is the evidence, then it's an absence of evidence. As his faith is the assurance of things hoped for and the conviction of things not seen. Some will say evidence instead of conviction. I'm using the NRSV, but the reality is nothing in here points towards having evidence. It's just having faith and conviction for things that you cannot see, the unseen.
Yeah, well, yeah, I will agree that a part of evidence, but what I define a faith as is like the habit.
Sorry to cut you off again. Sorry to cut you off again, but Chris, I don't want to spend the next 15 minutes doing semantic pettifog. I'd rather have an argument about something of substance. I don't want to do a bunch of like dumb conversation about what the meaning of a word is.
Well, you can do the same kind of vernacular is used in John 20 after Jesus proves who he is to Thomas, giving him far more evidence than you would expect to get. It says that thou hast believed, and blessed are they that have not seen and yet have believed. People who don't get the evidence that Thomas had and believe anyway are more blessed. So the Bible's pretty consistent over and over, as far as I know, that faith does mean just believing it because God told you to believe it.
That actually fits better with what I think faith is. Because the basis of why faith is, the reason for why faith is a good thing is because it's a good thing to believe in God when he says something to you.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think Chris, it is.
Did you want to get the conversation onto a subject that is substantive?
Well,
I don't want to talk about definitions all night.
Okay, then let's go to that. I remember you guys mentioning like in regarding the gospel message, which is like Jesus died for our sins, blah blah. You guys are mentioning that in the atonement, God sacrificed himself to himself. What do you guys mean by that?
it's nonsense about the Trinity, because if Jesus is God and God is Jesus, then he sacrificed himself to appease himself for his own fury. It's silly.
What about the fact that the Father and Jesus are two persons?
But they're one. If Jesus is God, if he's 100% God, as it says in Colossians, the fullness of the deity dwelt in him, that means he's 100% God. If he's 100% God, that means he's literally identical to God. Now, you could say that, well, he's not identical to God, but then you would also have to give up the doctrine of the Trinity that teaches that Jesus is 100% God, and you'd have to believe that Jesus is only a part of God. Partialism was condemned as early as Theodosius II. I don't know if you want to go to super hell on partialism.
Oh, no, I know that partialism is a heresy. The thing is that when it is said that Jesus, that the Son is 100% God, it is not meant that like everything that can be said about the divine nature is also true of the Son. What I say is that regarding the absolute properties of God, all of them are true of the Son, but not the relative.
Okay, so is God an identity or a category?
Well, God is a being.
Okay, so it's not a category, it's an entity, right?
Yes, it's a particular being. Right?
Okay. Because the problem you're making is you're applying the word God as though it's a category, not an entity. If Jesus is 100% God and God is an entity, that means that Jesus is 100% the entity of God, not the category of God.
Okay. When you say 100% God, what do you mean by that?
I mean, the fullness of God dwells in him. He's 100%. This is pretty standard Trinitarian doctrine.
Yeah, but pretty standard Trinitarian doctrine also is the fact that this only applies. There are two things in God: the absolute and the relative. The absolutes are indeed in the Son and in all three persons, but not the relative. There are relative things that are not in the Son.
Well, then you're not 100% God. You can say he's part God, but he's not 100% God.
No, because the 100% refers to the absolute, not the relative.
Wrong. 100% requires 100%.
Also, just to be clear, this is what I was talking about earlier on when you asked me why I say there's so many denominations, because I have talked to Christians on this channel who say that God and Jesus are synonymous in every single way, and that Jesus was God in the flesh who was then tortured and went to hell and all those things, and so it was God himself suffering through these things. God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit are indeed exactly the same thing in different forms. Not that they are different entities entirely. So this is what we're talking about here. You have a different version of Christianity. The one that Justin and I are referring to is the more common one. If you don't like that verbiage, that's fine, but it doesn't change the fundamentals of the message, which is that God had to commit a human sacrifice of something that was at least partially him in order to make a loophole in the rules that he made in order to not send people to hell, despite the fact that he already knew that was going to happen. The point of that message isn't to get into a semantic argument over who Jesus was and whether he was half God, full God, whatever. The point of that argument is to point out that the entire Jesus story is redundant and silly.
Yeah.
Why would it be a loophole?
Why would it be a loophole? Because if God wanted to forgive us for our sins, he could have just done that, instead of creating a being that was somehow also him in order for that being to go through a tremendous amount of suffering and torture and then be crucified and go to hell and all these other things, so that by blood sacrifice, he could then eventually get around to forgiving some of us. That's what's so important to point out about it, is that Christianity is not a religion that's against human sacrifice. It is a religion that believes that human sacrifice has been effective one time.
Okay. So when we say that Jesus sacrificed himself to us, what would you think about the model that the model of the atonement that Jesus sacrificed was about? Hold on a second. That his life and death demonstrate God's love and inspires humans to repent and live virtuously.
I don't think murdering someone ever demonstrates anyone's love.
Yeah, it's wholesale, just gross. It's a sick mockery of love.
Yeah, I
It's
also
not
add
them
that
willing
it's
to.
not even a good demonstration of love because I'm going to give you an example of what like the Trinitarian doctrine example of love entails. So like if there's a beer truck that's barreling towards you and Jesus jumps out and saves you, pushes you away from the beer truck and dies in your place, you're like, what a hero, what a martyr, and then realize that he's a Trinity and he was actually driving the motherfucker. That's not a hero. That's the guy who intentionally saved you from himself.
Right.
Except that I don't think that's how it works because
it's like a mafia boss demanding payment. Otherwise, you have to pay to protect him from what he's going to do to you. At the end of the day, this love that you're talking about is God sacrificing himself to himself. That's what we're talking about there. He is committing an act of human sacrifice in order to spare us of hell, which is what he created, and he dictates who goes there, and he made the rules as to who goes where, and he created Satan, and he created all of the bad parts of this that you want to avoid. God is responsible for. And that's the key message here that Justin and I are trying to get across to you in all of this, is that ultimately, no matter how you slice this, God is responsible for everything, every bit of bad. And if you want to say everybody good too, that's fine. But the whole reason there is sin is because of God. The whole reason there is hell is because of God. The whole reason there is damnation is because of God. And the whole reason Jesus was required is because God was unimaginative and couldn't come up with the idea to just forgive people of his mistakes. That's the key here.
Okay, a few issues here. I don't think that sin is produced by God. Sin comes from the will of man, not from God.
Right. No. And why? So just really quickly, what does sin mean?
Sin is when the will chooses a creature over God.
Right. So when we do something God doesn't want, that sin, which means sin is defined by God and could be forgiven by God, but he doesn't. And furthermore, when we talk about sin in the first place, the whole reason sin entered the world is because of the fall in the garden, right? Where God, who is omnipotent and knows everything and knows what's going to happen in the future, put a tree in front of two people who were literally born yesterday and didn't expect them to do anything with it. They failed not a test of purity, not a test of morality, not a test of innocence. They failed a test of obedience. And for that, all humans are now held to this ridiculous standard that God created, especially women who are subservient to their husbands and have difficult childbirth. So, again, like we said, everything goes back to God. The fact that sin exists in the first place is God's fault. The fact that sin is defined the way it is God's fault. The fact that sin is punished the way that it is God's fault. The fact that sin cannot be forgiven without filthy blood sacrifice is God's fault. He could do better, and he doesn't. It's a good thing he doesn't exist.
Okay. When you say created the rules, I don't think it's like God is like, oh yeah, I'm going to create humans, and how I'm going to manage this, heaven and hell. No, I think that this is just a necessary thing that he does not like voluntarily choose in that way.
He's not all knowing. He didn't know he was going to do all that before he did it. Because Ephesians chapter 1 verse 4 says that the elect were chosen before the foundation of the world, and it says that Jesus was slain before the foundation of the world in the book of Revelation, I believe chapter 13. 13 or 7?
Yeah, because,
I gotta look it up.
God foresaw. What?
No, I'm just externally talking to myself. Yeah, 13:7.
Okay. God foresaw that. God foresaw all the things that humans will commit. But it's not like
because he created us to do it.
What?
He created us to do it. He gave us a sin nature. He predestined us to do it. That's why Romans chapter 9 says that we're vessels created for wrath.
No, we will deny that God predestines people for the sake of sin.
Yeah, I would deny Romans chapter 9 too if I was you.
Yeah, does God know everything past, present, and future?
Yes, he knows all things.
Right. And so here's the thing. If I videotape a football game and I know who's going to win because I have it on videotape, and then I start the tape and I say, if this team loses, I'm going to punish them. Is it really their fault if they get punished? They had free will during the game, but I already knew the outcome. So if God already knows what's going to happen in the future, already knows who's going to sin and who's going to hell, and he makes them anyway, then that means he made those people with the intention that they would go to hell. Otherwise, he would have made them differently.
This is indeed a difficult question. I have to keep investigating these issues.
I hope you do. And I hope you call us back sometime. It's been 20 minutes. We're going to move on to the next call, but I hope you do think about these questions because they're supposed to be difficult. They're difficult because the answer isn't in favor of your God. There is no logical, moral way to get your God out of the bind of being responsible for all of this. So I hope you sit down and think about it a lot more, and I hope you call us back sometime, Chris.
Yeah, sure. Well, I personally don't think that that's really the case. It's just that I personally don't know how to answer.
Well, think about it, because at the end of the day, this is a very important question. It's not just is this God real? It's, is this God worth worshiping? And what I'm telling you is that even if you could prove to me, Chris, that this God really did exist, I would never be a Christian because this God isn't worth it.
He's a monster.
Is that the case? Well, that seems interesting to me, at least.
Yep. I hope you think about it more. Take care. Bye-bye. What a good way to start.
That was something.
Yeah. It went way better than I thought it was going to. I'll be honest with you. Let's talk to Aaron. Pronouns he, him. Calling in from the UK, who wants to talk about proof for God. Aaron, you're on the line with Forrest and Justin. How are you doing today?
Hello. How are you two?
Hello. Never had a bad day, man.
Doing well.
Forrest, you're the legend.
Oh, thank you. That's I don't want to be, but I appreciate that.
No, you are. Can I just
Maybe
have
not in
1 minute?
in the I am legend way, in the horrible way.
No, definitely not. Can I have
what can I
1 minute
of your
time before you hang up on me?
Okay.
It is now it's my 40th birthday.
Happy birthday.
And thank you. Thank you very much. I'll be honest, I've always wanted to talk to you.
Okay.
You got your birthday wish.
What's going on?
I'm not going to lie. Just please give me 1 minute of your time before you hang up on me.
Let's hear it.
I am literally an atheist. But I've always wanted to talk to you. Because I'd have so many arguments with theists over Facebook and various things, and I'd always chuck them into your face. And they'd always, as soon as I say, go to Forrest Valkai, they hang up on me. Not hang up on me, they go quiet, I beg your pardon. But I have always wanted to talk to you.
Okay.
To me, you are an absolute legend of a man.
That's you do me way too much kindness. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm happy that my material has been useful to you.
No. And is it Mr. Justin? Justin,
is there something in particular that you wanted to talk about? I mean, you've got him on the line. Now's the time to ask a question.
It sounds like he was going to ask you something too.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then we'll move on.
No, please. Well, I know your opinion on ghosts, obviously.
Yeah. You know my opinion on ghosts? If your phone went to sleep, we can't hear you. You're on the web caller, so you need to tap your phone and wake it up. And I still can't hear you, so we're going to move on. I appreciate you calling in and saying such kind things. It's very sweet of you. We're going to move on to a theist caller now, but have an awesome rest of your day and happy birthday to you.
Thanks for watching. And atheists, you don't have to lie about being atheist to call in. You can just be honest.
No, we had lines for atheists. we had lines for them. And it looks like we're going to take one right now because I'm looking at the lines that we have. Lines are filling up as fast as we are ending calls at this moment. We've got here one initializing right now. We have 3 in the queue, 1 in the screening room. We've got 3 who are waiting on the line. So keep trying if you want to get through. Looks like we already had 3 people who got blocked. Good gravy. Let's talk to Kara, pronouns they, them, who is an agnostic who wanted to talk about deconstruction and some other words that they don't understand. Kara, you're on the line with Forrest and Justin. How are you doing today?
Oh, hi.
Hello.
Sorry, very nervous.
Oh, no reason to be.
No worries. You're in good hands here. We're not here to beat you up.
Stupid.
Yeah, I've been watching y'all for the last couple of weeks lately. Sorry, I don't know. I use the word agnostic.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just judging from like the chats and all that. Like, I don't even know if I know the word correctly or not.
Okay, well, let's talk about it a little bit. Do you believe in a God?
For the longest time, I thought there was at least something, but more and more, it's hard to really tell.
Okay, so what's important to remember is that atheist and agnostic and theist and all these things, these are different terms that mean different things. And so this is getting a little bit pedantic. In common parlance, agnostic just means you're on the fence and you're kind of deciding. The reality of the word gnostic just means to know that you know a thing. So if you are Gnostic, you know it. And if you're agnostic, you don't. So you can be a Gnostic theist, meaning you know there is a God, or an agnostic theist, I believe in a God, but I'm not sure. Or you can be a Gnostic atheist, I know there is no God, or an agnostic atheist, I don't believe there's a God, but I could be wrong. The key here that we try to promote on this show is that agnostic atheism is the only one that we think is, well, I'll say for myself, that I think is an honest position, because all of the other 3 require evidence. If you were saying that you do believe that there is a God, whether you know it or not, then you are saying you have some reason to believe that. And I don't think there is a good reason to believe that. If you are saying you know there is no God, then you also need to have a reason to say that. I'm saying that I don't think there is a God. I don't believe in such a thing, but I'm willing to listen to new ideas. If there's evidence for that, I'm willing to change my mind. I haven't looked under every single rock in the universe to see if there's a God hiding somewhere. I don't know what a God looks like, what it acts like. I've never had a God on which I can run tests. I don't know what gods do. I don't know any of that. I just don't think that such a thing exists. So that's what we're calling about, what we're talking about usually on this show. In common parlance, however, agnostic just means you're still thinking it over and you're not 100% convinced one way or the other. That's usually how people use that term. So now that I've said all that, what of that sound, like, how does that sound to you?
I guess the words I'm looking for are, I'd be like, I don't think there's a God, but part of me still hopes at least one that's not the triomni one.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you hoping for in particular?
Well, you know that, okay, well, real quick, one thing. It's Kara with a K. Sorry. But.
Oh, pardon me.
We
will stone our call screen to death.
That, that religious experience, that like holy feeling or whatnot you're supposed to get during like gospels and the hymns and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I never felt that whenever I went to church back in the day, but the first time I ever tried a skirt on, like, that was the first time I had anything that could be like that divine feeling. And like, I just realized that I don't think that the church has that feeling. I some people feel it there, but like, I don't know. I'm stumbling on my words. Sorry.
So you're saying that like you never experienced any kind of like divinity, but when you explored your gender identity, you found something a little bit more serious.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that should tell you something. It should tell you that, who you are as a person, so exploring yourself, discovering more about yourself is a significantly more profound experience than the creator of the universe can give you. I think that tells you a lot about which one of those things is real and worth your time. Exploring yourself, learning about yourself, taking time and pride in who you are, and time to explore and learn and validate and justify and all these different things that come along with being a person. Those things seem to be doing a lot more for you than church does. So I would explore those things more and kind of put church on the side. And if you want to sit down and dig really hard into religion and try to answer this question, great. You should do that. But if you're like me and like many other atheists out there where it just genuinely doesn't fucking matter, you have no reason to believe this, and you're not going to spend any time worrying about it anymore, be done with it. When I was in my early 20s, I was very interested in religion. I wanted to find something like that. And just like with you exploring your gender identity, I found way more good and way more deep feeling and way more motivation and way more excitement and way more profound knowledge and all these things in going out and helping people and volunteering for charities. And so I started my own charity company until I didn't want to do that anymore. And then I started volunteering for other organizations. And then I started doing cool shit. And I found the best use of my time was in education, especially science. That was where I really just shined and found that I was the happiest. And now I learn way too much science and teach it to people and try to make the world a better place. And that makes me happier than most Christians I know. So I think that's what you should be doing. You should be exploring more of things that actually matter to you. And if you want to try to answer this God question, do it.
Okay. Yeah. I guess I mostly just hold on to like something being there because mostly it's comfortable for my mom, and she's still like really religious, but like not like in a bad way or nothing like that. Yeah. And thank you. There's something I wanted to ask you in particular, because you understand biology and stuff. Another one of the words I don't really understand, hermaphrodite.
Mm-hmm. So this is a term that's used to describe. Yeah, so this is used to describe non-human animals who have male and female reproductive capabilities, either at one point or another in their life, or sometimes at the same time. So sequential hermaphrodism is when an animal turns from male morph to a female morph over the course of their life, like a lot of shrimp do. Or you can have like true hermaphrodism, like with slugs and stuff, where they have both male and female parts all throughout their entire lives. It's important to remember that this is not a term that we use for humans. It used to be. We used to describe intersex conditions. That was the way that we described them. But we don't use this anymore because it has become something that is very derogatory and almost scatological. And so when we talk about it now, we use the term intersex to talk about people who are born with intermediate sexual characteristics, whether at the chromosomal level, gonadal level, hormonal level, external genitalia, internal genitalia, whatever it may be. If they are anatomically somewhere in between what we would typically call male and female, or chromosomally, or whatever else, we just use the term intersex as a blanket term for all of those people.
Okay. Well, one of the wow, chat needs to calm down. I'm not a troll. But one of the reasons I brought up is, do you think if we advanced enough in technology that one day somebody could like transition that kind of way?
Sure.
To be both?
We've maybe. So it's if you're talking about that, it would largely be either anatomical sex that you're talking about, or maybe gametic sex. We have made, if I remember correctly, sperm cells out of stem cells from skin, and egg cells out of, I believe, stem cells from bone marrow, if I remember correctly. But it's only in like mouse models, and so it's possible that somebody could, through some sort of intervention, make both sperm and eggs for themselves. In terms of anatomical sex, that's a matter of advancements in surgery and surgical techniques and things like that. I don't know for sure. It's not really my area of expertise, but I don't know. It all depends on where medical science goes in the future. I'm very hopeful, but it's also not anything that I'm keeping up to date on.
Okay. Thank you so much for the call. Y'all have a good rest of your show. I'm sorry, I'm gonna go cry now. Bye.
You're just fine. There's nothing to cry about. You ask good questions. Take care, Kara.
No need to cry.
Bye-bye.
Well,
sweet.
Best of luck to him.
Thoughtful questions. Yeah. There's clearly somebody who just wanted to know some cool stuff. Let's look. We've got a bunch of atheists on the line. I'm gonna be real with you. You guys are usually going to be waiting a long time. It's. I think this means that we win. We've won the atheist debates.
We did win.
There are no theists left to talk to us. So far, we've got 3 atheists, 1 agnostic, and 1 person in the screening room at this moment. So we've got a lot of stuff there. Let's go with. I think this might be. What do you think about line number 18? I think that might be useful for both of us, but I feel like you've got some cool stuff to say in there. Okay, cool. Let's talk to Lucy. Run on she here, calling in all the way from Italy, who is a teacher who wants some tips and suggestions on how to talk to students. Lucy, you're on the line with Forrest and Justin. How are you doing today?
Hello. Good evening.
Hello.
Evening, Lucy.
And it is 2 a.m. for me, but yes.
Good morning, Lucy.
That works, yeah. I just as I said, it is a very small neighbor in a southern city. It is quite Catholic. I've had students that have transitioned to other genders. I'm not sure how to translate that to English. I'm very sorry. I've had students that were homosexuals, and I've had students that transitioned. They had no issues with their lives, but the second someone starts talking about not being a believer, it God forbid, quite literally.
When you say not being a believer, do you mean in God, or about who they are as whether homosexual or a trans person?
No, in God, like specifically being Catholic.
Right.
Gotcha.
And it is quite different to come out with that. It is a very Thai family. It is very cultural to have big Thai family here.
Right. Yeah. In Italy, being Catholic is like akin to being Italian. I've known a couple people that deconverted from Catholicism to Protestantism and literally got kicked out of their homes. So, like, I know it's a big deal. It's even bigger deal if you decide you don't believe in that God altogether.
Yes, pretty much. So I myself just dropped a bombshell on my family, but I knew I wouldn't have an issue with them because my family is very live and let live. But I would like to know how to deal with. I would like to help my students. I would also like to know how to deal with their parents because I do have to talk to them. when there is teacher-parent meetings, the effort I had to go through to actually leave aside a part of their student life that only their fellow students know, it is quite hard to keep going like that over and over. Like, I know most of them would like to just be honest with their families.
So I think the one thing I would press with your family or others that are having trouble with their families is that belief isn't a choice. I think a lot of times when people leave their faith, the family members and people around them don't understand it, and they feel like this person just made a decision to leave, and they can't understand why somebody would decide to leave, right? But the reality is people leave because they just don't believe it anymore. And that's a state of being. It's not something you choose. Like, I never chose to lose my faith. It just happened to be that way, right? So I would definitely help them to reframe the thinking as to, this is not something I did. This is something that happened to me. This is not something that I asked for. This is something that I'm dealing with. Right. So I am now in a state of disbelief. I'd never wanted to be in this state, but yet here I find myself. Right. So, you know, this should, if you can get this conversation over with them, this should help them to understand that, like, you're not doing anything out of malicious intent. You're not trying to harm anyone. You're not trying to do any, have any negative repercussions on the people around you. But it's important for them to understand that what you're going through is not something that you chose, because then they will point the finger at you like you're the problem, and you're not the problem. You're taking in the information and you're coming to an honest assessment that is different than theirs.
How, I guess that would really be the only way to know. I think most of them are just scared of being left out, so to speak.
Sure. And you know, if you're a young person and you're dependent on your family for care, and you don't believe in the religion anymore, it's not really incumbent on you to make a big deal of it, or to really even make it known. You know, I'm a firm believer that families are important. And so, like, just like we don't want our family members to push their religion on us, we shouldn't feel the burden to push atheism on them, right? That at some point we have to love and get along with our family, even if we disagree on stuff. And it's even more true if you're a young person and you're still dependent on your family. If that's your situation, sometimes you kind of have to go with the flow. Eventually you'll come of age and you can say, hey, I've had enough of this. I want out. And then you can kind of figure out what to do once you become an adult. But I think it's more difficult when you're young, because what are you going to do? Like, you live with your family. They pay your bills typically. You can't just get up and go somewhere. At some level, you have to figure out, like, what do I need to do to keep peace with my family?
Yeah, something I always try to remind people whenever they call in, because we get calls all the time here from, you know, the middle of America where I live, where, just like in Italy, Christianity is the name of the game. If you are not an active participating member of the Christian church, people assume you eat puppies in your basement, and it's just horrible. And so what I always try to remind people is that, like, it's okay to keep that to yourself if you have to, or to be very outspoken about it if you have to. You have to make the decision of how much is that conversation worth? How much of your relationship with your family are you willing to put at risk to be honest with yourself and to be honest with them about this? And also, how much is your comfort worth? Your boundaries? Because if you don't do that, then you are letting your family members walk all over you and your beliefs and your comfort and make you feel a really terrible way. So you have to do this really terrible calculus of trying to balance your boundaries, your comfort, your dignity with how much that conversation is really worth and what you're willing to risk. And nobody can make that decision except for you, because you know your family. But I think that, like, digging into it a little bit at a time with them, and maybe just saying, hey, I don't want to go to church anymore, or I don't want to pray anymore over the dinner table. I don't want to be involved with this and this. but maybe still I want to have fun at Christmas and see grandma. That's an okay bridge to start to go over, you know?
Yeah. I mean, Christmas isn't really a Catholic holiday here anymore either way. It's just a family meeting. I do appreciate the help. It makes me feel a bit better with what I'm doing with my students, honestly.
I'm sure you're doing a great job. I think just having like an open ear to listen to is sometimes all they need. They need someone to understand what they're going through and be able to relate to them rather than villainize them. You know, a lot of times what we need more than anything is just to be heard.
Yeah, thank you. Before I go, I just wanted to say, Forrest, I really do appreciate most of your videos. I know my science colleague plays some of yours as well, and I do. My class, despite teaching something completely different. So thank you both for this conversation. It was incredibly helpful.
Thank you. I really hope so.
Thanks for calling.
And yeah, I think I don't know what it's like in Italy, but I can tell you here in America, teachers are superheroes who work, 5 jobs and get paid next to nothing and are the most loving people in the whole world. I can only imagine that's mostly true in Italy too. Just
oh yeah, we barely get paid. Yes.
Yeah.
That
so
is true.
Thank you for everything you do. You're a real superhero.
And you have a good night.
Take care. You too.
Cheers. Have a great one.
What the fuck is with the nice people calling in? What is this? This is supposed to be an angry show. We got, as of right now, we have a couple
not
people
sending the assholes right now.
Right? We got a couple people on screen. We got a couple people who've been waiting for a long time. Here's what I'm gonna do, and I'll leave it up to you if you agree to this. Like we got 3 atheists who are waiting on the line and have been for some time. I'm down to get through them quickly to open those lines up for more theists, but I want the theists to call. Okay, so we've got in the chat here, we already just had to mute one person. We had to mute one person who's been a long time caller that got banned after being fucking creepy. We had to one person here, Lunchbox, says he's going to call in and talk about genitals. Do it. We got this person who says that you're not allowed to have an opinion that differentiates with them. You'll be surprised as to what this show is. Call in, pick up the phone, let's talk. But there's a couple other people here that are just, coming into chat to preach and to bitch. There's a number on the bottom of the screen, 720-619-2288, or use the web link in the description. Lines are full right now. We're about to open some up. So if it's cool with you, Justin, I'm going to crank through some atheist calls. What do you think?
Yeah, let's bring them in. And while we're doing that, Christians, remember, you're disobeying the Lord if you're not prepared to give an answer for everyone who asks to give a reason for the hope that's within you. So don't be disobedient to the Lord. Jesus says that those who know his voice will obey him.
It's true. Let's talk very quickly let's start with Joe, pronouns he, him, who wants to talk about quantum effects in the brain and something about DNA. Joe, I don't know shit about quantum mechanics, but I don't want you waiting on the line anymore. What's going on?
Hey, Forrest, Justin, can you hear me okay?
Welcome, Joe.
Yes, I can.
Okay. Okay, cool. May I fangirl for just a minute?
Sure.
And then I'll be quick because I know you're trying to clear lines. I caught that.
You're fine.
Trying to recompose myself from that last caller, man. Teachers have it bad. You're absolutely right. Anyway,
everywhere.
Forrest, I want to thank you. Your absolutely positive and infectious attitude has helped me get through a rough time. Your never had a bad day that's me and my mom's new mantra to get through shit. And now I see people on the line with shirts with that phrase, and it's fucking beautiful. Oh, love it, dude.
That's really kind.
And
Justin, thank you very much.
And Justin, you have such utter calm confidence when talking about the Bible. Love it. It's beautiful.
Appreciate that.
So there is new research on there's new discoveries on quantum effects in neurons in the brain, and I'm not jumping on any bandwagon. I'm genuinely curious from a biological perspective, because I can't. Okay, I read the Scientific American, Phys.org, this is where I'm seeing a bunch of these things. Basically, there's some physicists and neuroscientists who are saying this may be a clue to consciousness, and others are the quantum effect does not translate to the large scale of the neuron. And so there's a lot of in between currently.
Right.
There are some people who are jumping on the bandwagon where quantum supersymmetry is the key to the soul. And so you haven't heard anything on this direction of study yet?
I've heard a couple of things, and while you were talking, I just did some basic Googling just to kind of see what was on the top of the Google Scholar and what was on physics world websites and stuff like that. And it's all about the same as what I've always heard about this. I don't know what this new stuff is. I haven't seen anything from this year. But it's all about the same thing that I usually hear, which is that there are weird tiny interactions that make no sense, that are really crazy, where little tiny bits of things, usually electrons or photons, bipping in and out of existence and all that stuff. Super neat stuff. I think the biggest thing that hangs me up on it, there's a lot of something there. There's a lot of something there, and we don't know what that something is. We don't know what that something does. We don't know if that's know if that something's important.
Exactly.
Like, if you ask me, in my super not professional in any way in this area opinion, I would never want to be a member of a club of quantum mechanics that would have me as a member, right? I would say that I very much so that the size of the neuron is ridiculous when compared to the size of these interactions. And when we're talking about how a neuron actually fires, what we're talking about is called action potentials, which is a raising of the overall electrical potential or the electrical charge across the membrane of that neuron. So inside the neural cell, there is a net negative charge. If I remember correctly, resting membrane potential is about negative 40 millivolts. So the inside of the cell has a negative charge. And then you have this influx of sodium ions. Yeah, so you have this influx of sodium ions that brings it up to like positive something, like positive 30 or whatever. Like, I don't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head, but it brings it up into the positives a little bit. That's the spike of the charge. And then you have potassium efflux, where it pumps out sodium, pumps in potassium. That brings the charge down to like negative 60 millivolts, and that's called hyperpolarization. That gives you the refractory period until the next firing, and then it balances back out, and that allows the neuron to fire again. That action potential happens at the scale of like a shit ton of atoms flowing in and out of this neuron to cause charges that, like you said, are orders of magnitude larger than the kind of charges that we're talking about when we're talking about quantum mechanics. So if you're asking me, does quantum mechanics have a big effect in the brain? Maybe on a really a collective scale, maybe.
Maybe a directional, not a. May I jump in real quick? Maybe not on a direct, like quantum effects maybe aren't making things happen, but maybe they're nudging things to happen in a different direction. Nudging, not changing direction, but nudging.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't want to be a jerk, but I don't know enough about this to even say if I think that's possible.
Dude, that's the best answer. We all always say that is the best answer you could possibly give. I don't know, but I find it a very fascinating course of study nowadays. I'm excited to see where it goes. If it's nothing, hey, it's nothing. If it's something, wow, it's a new field of study for somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to see where it goes, but I don't have any reason to think one way or the other at this moment. I would be very skeptical of this unless there was some serious evidence for it. But with that, I appreciate you calling in and talking to me. Sorry, go ahead.
Hey, Thank you so much. No, I don't know where to look for it either. But knowing you're like a super biologist, and I've been watching your stuff, and you are extremely. Okay, you're a regular biologist, but you're extremely knowledgeable, and you're accessible. You got a call-in. You're part of a call-in show. You're accessible. So hey, let's see what this guy's opinion is. And wow, I've never heard so much technical shit from you until tonight. Like microphones. Oh my gosh, man, that was intense. Thank you guys very much.
Action potentials are really cool. Action potentials are really cool. You should look them up. By the way, I forgot to say, Joe calling in from, now we know, Nudging Electrons. Thank you so much, Joe. Have an awesome rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Oh, dear God, I'm not a super biologist. Accessible, I'll take accessible out of all of those things. Let's talk next to Patience, pronouns he, him, calling in from East Africa, who is an atheist who ironically happens to be living proof of the power of prayer. What does that mean, Patience? You're on the line with Forrest and Justin. How are you doing today?
Hello, can you hear me? I'm supposed to see a button, I think.
Indeed.
Yeah, great. Yes, hi. First of all, the power of prayer thing. I used to be a plumber, and one of my favorite customers was a very devout lady, Lynn, who would occasionally call me in to work on her bathroom and would sit there talking to me about Jesus. And she told me that she'd had a terrible trouble finding a really good plumber. And so she got down on her knees and prayed. And there I was. So you have the privilege of speaking to a plumber by divine appointment.
Right? Amazing. Let Jesus unclog your pipes, y'all.
I mean, who would have guessed she prayed and a guy showed up to lay some pipe and it was happily ever after?
Yeah, and it had nothing to do with her calling me on the phone or the advert that I'd placed. But she was a lovely lady. Actually, what I called about is I believe that I suspect that there are, how can I put this? I'm doing some research on a comedy I'm writing about Christians. And as a result of that, I've come across 3 or 4 different things that seem to me to point towards evidence that there is some sort of supernature going on that we're not aware of. And so I wanted to run it by Forrest to see what he has to say. First thing, do you happen to have access to your contact email account? Because I sent a link to a document from the University of Virginia that you might find interesting.
Yeah, I do read through those emails every now and then, but I rarely have time to do so I probably just haven't seen it.
Well, I just sent it to you in case you wanted to open it up and have a look. But anyway, I can describe it to you.
Cool.
So this is about near-death experiences, and it's from the National Medical Library in the USA, which is, I think, a part of the University of Virginia's Division of Perceptual Studies. And they've got some independent funding to look into near-death experiences. I suspect that the people supplying the independent funding are probably, theists of some sort, but the people doing the actual work are quite an impressive array of different medical disciplines. And they've been looking at near-death experiences, and obviously you can't really, use scientific method to look at the actual experiences themselves because they're all anecdotal and in the past, and there's nothing really to do an experiment with. But so what they've done is they seem to have followed 2 paths. One is they've exhaustively catalogued every reported case and cross-referenced common experiences that each has had reported. And then the other is they've looked at all of the hypotheses advanced to explain these phenomena. And they've been looking at it from the perspective of medical science. And the document that I sent you the link to is actually quite extensive, and I think you'd find it a good read, Forrest. So I hope maybe you'll get the time to have a look at it. But an example of the Yeah, an example of the sort of thing they're knocking down is, I was listening to Seth Andrews' show one time, and some lady called him about NDEs, and he of course said, well, I don't really know anything about those. And then she said, yes, I understand that. So tell me about NDEs. And he mentioned that he'd heard someone put forward the hypothesis that it's caused by hypoxia. But they pointed out that a lot of these NDEs occur on the operating table when people are hooked up to all sorts of monitoring equipment. And they confirmed that it had nothing to do with a lack of oxygen. And someone else might hypothesized it's too much carbon dioxide. And then it was, again, the same thing. It's disproved that way. So they go through a whole list of hypotheses and, basically go through. What they've arrived at is a point where, but with using quite rigorous scientific methods, they've disproved every hypothesis to explain why this thing happened. And which is quite a novel position to be in, I think. I quite like that. My question, sorry,
did they give
Sorry?
So you go ahead, Justin. What were you thinking?
Did they give an explanation for why Muslims see only Muslim apparitions when they have near-death experiences, and why Christians see Christian apparitions, and why Hindus see Hindu apparitions?
They very much, from this cross-referencing thing, have confirmed that it's across all cultures. There are so many common experiences. There's nothing like that.
That's right. No, I agree. Yeah. So
Muslims.
I think one of the big problems with these studies is it never accounts for the fact that the near-death experiences are always couched within their cultural setting. And to me, that is the biggest indicator that their brain is stitching together a reality for them while they're not entirely conscious. It's also weird that only a tiny fraction of people ever experience this when they die. I've been dead twice. It was nothing for me. I went out, I was gone, and then I came back later. Couple minutes later, different location. I don't know how much time passed, maybe 5-10 minutes at the most, nothing in between.
Yeah, I also find it interesting that, like, when we do get like reports from people who say that they've had near that experience, they're never like actually predictive of anything. So like they say, I was hovering above the operating table and I could see but they can't actually give any details that can be confirmed. And when they put like a note on the ceiling, say, hey, if you can read this, let us know. Nobody ever mentions it. And so it's usually while I find it very interesting that they were able to rule out several hypotheses about, was it low oxygen or high carbon dioxide or blah, blah, blah. That's news. It doesn't give me any reason to believe that there may be anything to them. I don't know if that's what you're getting at, because they've yet to show any actual novel testable predictions, which would be indicative of actually a real natural phenomenon.
Yeah, well, this is what I was saying earlier about the scientific method is, if you were to apply scientific method to actually studying the phenomena while it was happening, you'd be, something like that movie Flatliners or something. It wouldn't be ethical. It wouldn't work. But I can say that in that document contradicts what you've both said to me, and it's not cultural. And when one of the examples they gave of someone floating up near the ceiling and describing what was going on was someone who is a blind person who was being operated on, and they accurately described what was going on.
And I've actually looked into the blind NDEs, and none of them were actually born blind. They became blind later in life, and so they already had visual memory. Like my mother doesn't see color anymore, but she can still visualize color, even though she can't actually see it with her eyeballs, because she wasn't born colorblind. She developed color blindness later. We don't actually, as far as I'm aware, and unless something came out this year, I don't know of a single case where somebody that was literally born blind had a verifiable NDE. There's one lady that's been making the rounds on YouTube since like 20 years ago that claims to have had one. None of it, we don't have any information from any medical professionals about this. It's just her on YouTube saying a thing. The reality is we've done actual laboratory studies on out-of-body experiences and near-death experiences, and we know for a fact that Muslims have Islamic-based NDEs, There's entire websites dedicated to it. There's entire magazines that have been dedicated to telling their stories. We know that it is in fact true. But to be on point though, we've tried in laboratory studies to validate this. We've done situations where we've triggered people to have out-of-body experiences using various substances or using deep brain stimulation. And we know that using these methods, we can trigger out-of-body experiences. And people claim they're leaving their body. They are convinced of it, right? And so they're usually given some kind of a task. Right? They're usually given some type of a task. So let's say when you leave your body, you need to turn around and see what's behind you. Easy. That shouldn't be hard to do at all. Yet they never do. People are entirely convinced that they left their body, but not once can they ever just see what's behind them, because their brain is stitching together a reality for them, and that reality is based on what's already in their brain. They're not taking in any new information. And I think the closest we've got to getting even remotely close to demonstrating a single near-death experience was the study put together by Sam Parnia. He did a study over the course of nearly 20 years now called the AWARE Project, and they had one instance out of hundreds and hundreds of cases where one person seemed to be able to confirm that they heard something while they were dead that they shouldn't have been able to hear. But not a single person was able to identify visual phenomenon in the room. The 25 different hospital rooms were set up with visual cues, visual devices for people to see if they left their bodies. No one can ever identify the visual cues. So the study, as far as I can tell from the papers, are demonstrating that consciousness is active in the brain much longer after death than people realize, and it's desperately trying to stitch together, you know, auditory stuff that it's currently taking in and other visual phenomenon that's either already there or is they're taking in visually from above if their eyes are open, and stitching together a reality. That being said, Sam Parnia, the guy who led the study, has just finally started to talk about his particular viewpoint. I think his particular viewpoint differs from some of the other people on the study. When you look up the study, you're going to find lots of interviews with Dr. Sam Parnia, and it's going to be really convincing that this guy is like quasi-Buddhist because he thinks that spirits exist and could live on after consciousness. But if you read the actual studies, the studies are a little more mechanical and robust in their analysis than what you'll get from Sam Parnia. That being said, love that he even put the study together.
Yeah, I mean, I found this very interesting, and it wasn't actually the leaving the body thing that I was calling about, but because there are many aspects to NDEs. But I'm more, we're all familiar with the phrase, you know, my life flashed before my eyes. And what I particularly of interest is the way we seem to stream our life's data at the point of death if we die naturally. I find that particularly fascinating, particularly because something that happened to me personally, which is just an odd little anecdote. I was actually standing in a back garden one time, just sawing a piece of wood. And then suddenly I was a baby in a pram looking up at a house through a set of railings. And I want to be clear, this isn't, I remembered being a baby. I was actually there looking in high definition at this house. And I described it to my mother, and she said, yes, she used to park me on the pavement in the Isle of Wight for my afternoon nap as a child. I think I'm giving her some clues as to how old I am now. And back then, you know, you just park your kid out on the pavement for when they fell asleep. I must have woken up as a baby and looked up through those railings, and I described the house to her, and she said, yeah, that was the house in the Isle of Wight. So I'm aware that a part of me has recorded in high definition that event. And it strikes me that a lot of people, especially in near-death experiences, have this, you know, my life flashed before my eyes thing, where they seem to stream their life's data, which is now leading me towards my question for Forrest, because I accept that happens. Now, you might not. And in the NDEs, it's reported a lot. They call it life review cycle or something. But it seems to me that if a human being has a feature, that feature is the product of evolution, especially if you're an evolutionist like me and like you guys. What would be the evolutionary advantage of streaming your life's data somewhere at the point of death? Or
so
anything at the point of death?
Yeah. So it's a super common misconception it's a super common misconception to assume that everything that a body can possibly do must therefore have some evolutionary advantage. There are plenty of things that have come along with evolution that are what we call spandrels, which means that they did not specifically evolve for whatever purpose they serve, but in fact, other things happened, other things came into existence, and that is just the result of those other things. The word spandrel comes from the term for whenever you have arches. The triangular bit between the arch is called a spandrel. And so nobody went out to build little triangles on this thing. They built arches, and the triangles just kind of came along accidentally as a result. So similarly, like our chin is a spandrel. As our jaws continue to reduce and change shape, our chins came about. No other ape has a chin like us. And so you're like, well, what's the evolutionary advantage of the chin? There isn't one. It's just a thing that's there because of the way that our jaws have shaped. And so when we talk about things like this, like I would say it's much, much, much more likely to say that our brain is really good at storing memories. We're not entirely 100% sure at every bit about how it does that yet. And sometimes a memory can be stored really, really, really fucking well for seemingly no reason. And we don't know why. And that is a lot more of an honest and concise way to look at it than to say there must be some evolutionary advantageous thing to this when that isn't necessary, especially not in the brain. Certainly not necessary to say, here's the evolutionary advantage of this kind of anxiety or whatever else the brain can do.
Yes. Yeah, well, actually, I was trying to argue that there's no evolutionary advantage to anything that only occurs at the point of death. But I wasn't really aware of spandrels. You're much more, knowledgeable about evolution than I am. I agree with evolution, but I don't have the background knowledge that you do.
Oh, you're fine. As far as saying that nothing is evolutionary at the point of death, that's pretty true. There are certain things that happen to try to keep us alive that have an advantage. Certain ways that our bodies conserve resources and energy and try to filter in. So the reason why we get things like frostbite is because our bodies are really good at conserving that energy to keep our vital organs going, and we sacrifice our fingers and toes and nose to do it. So like things like there's a lot of evolutionary advantage in dying and the way that we do that. And sometimes that actually backfires. The first and most important lesson about immunology is that your body will kill you to try to keep you alive. And so but I do like the idea when you're talking about like actually anything that kills you. There's no evolutionary advantage in how susceptible we are to bullets. You know what I mean? That doesn't really make any sense.
Yes, true. Okay. Well, it's been interesting. Thank you. I've enjoyed our chat.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Have an
awesome day. Thanks for calling in.
I hope you get some theists to yell at soon. So,
we got the next one. Should
try.
Have a good day. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right then. Okay.
Super nice. Let's talk next. We cleared up some lines, and we've got 4 people left on the line. We got 1 theist, 1 deconstructing theist, 1 possible theist, and 1 atheist. So we'll go through them and see what we can do. Let's talk first to Chris, pronouns he, him, calling in from Fiddly Legos, who says he believes that the inconsistencies in the Bible are intentional. Chris, you're on the line with Forrest and Justin. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, gentlemen. How are you doing this evening?
Doing well. Thanks for asking.
Never had a bad day.
Cool. Yeah. All right. So here's my that's nice. Here's my my I don't know, my argument or whatever. I think that the errancies within the Bible are there intentionally. They're too numerous and obvious to not be there intentionally, but it does require a reader to actually read through the text to find these things. They're not, if you just kind of like bounce around like they do in church and stuff like that, you almost never will encounter them. But as soon as you look at the whole Bible as a thing, as an entity, and go through it all, you will notice these things. And if it's the inspired word of God, then it has to be there for a reason. Those things have to be there intentionally. And I think that the reason that they're there is to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Or maybe it's not the inspired word of God.
Yeah.
Well, sure. that's the other
God
option.
Does say in 1 Samuel 15:29 that he will not deceive. It says the glory of Israel will not deceive or change his mind, for he's not immortal that he would change his mind. So if God doesn't deceive people, it'd be weird that he wrote a book full of deceptions.
I mean, is it, I don't know if deception is the right word for it. I mean, I suppose you could say it's a deception if the intent is to convince you that the contents are not true, or if the inerrant or the errancies are there to push a reader or a believer or somebody who is seeking some sort of spiritual understanding or whatever truth to look deeper into the text and into themselves as as a growth, I don't know, a tool, like a pedagogical challenge.
So you're talking, so you're talking like in Ezekiel 20:25, where he says the exact opposite of what Justin just said, and says that God says that he specifically gave people bad judgments and bad advice in order to deceive them and lead them astray.
Yeah, right. Exactly. This is what I'm saying. It's like these things are in the Bible, and
we're talking about.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
So the question that I have for you, Chris, is, as I'm a biologist, and so like I'm always talking about models and theories and all this dumb shit that nobody wants to hear about. One of the things we do in science is we take the model that we have, the functional explanation for whatever we're trying to figure out, and we hold it up to reality and we see how it looks and if it fits, right? So here's the two hypotheses we have, right? Here are the two models we've got. One of them is that there's this guy that created the whole universe and the earth and everybody in it. And this guy wrote a book, and he intentionally made the book very confusing and have a lot of inconsistencies and contradictions and stuff, in the hopes that the people would read the whole thing and suss out all of those differences and inconsistencies and think about them really carefully and come somehow to the conclusion that this guy wanted them to come to, and their souls depend on it. And also this guy loves those people, loves every one of them, and needs them to get this message, and this is the best way that he could think to do it. And the other model is a bunch of dudes wrote a book back in the Bronze Age, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. Which of those models do you think is the most likely, and which one best fits reality?
Well, given your synopsis there of the Bible, sure, the first explanation, or I guess the second explanation that you gave, that it was just a book written by a bunch of Bronze Age men who were, whatever. That makes, I guess, what is the word? It's parsimonious, right?
Yes, that is the word.
It's the simple explanation, but just because the simple explanation is a simple explanation, it does not necessarily mean that it's the correct explanation. It's just the simple one. Sometimes the more complicated explanation, sometimes there's, crazy sets of circumstances or whatever. But it's this exact thing that if somebody were trying to leverage human instinct and human nature to be skeptical, to be critical, to want to always be right, and to want to argue, then if he had given us a perfect book, then there wouldn't be anything to discuss. We wouldn't be having this conversation right now. The Bible would be more or less boring.
We'd be discussing how perfect it is, just like a lot of Christians do today. The Christians who do think it's perfect will never stop talking about it. And the reason why is because the book says it, right? Proverbs 30 verse 5, every word of God proves true. If there are any words of God in this book that don't prove true, it's just one more contradiction, one more reason to throw it out. Jesus said that you can't live on bread alone, but on every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. If you don't even know which words those are, what are you going to do? How are you going to follow Jesus' command to live on the words of God when you don't know which ones they are?
Wasn't that the thing about like a house built on the sand or something like that? About how you have to have a solid foundation? I don't remember the exact verse on that one, but that's
come
kind
on,
of
man.
where we're
People
at
live
with
on the
this.
beach.
Is that the people at Answers in Genesis? We talked about them at the beginning. Like Answers in Genesis, they believe every word of the Bible is perfectly true, and they know it front to back. They study it extensively, and they believe every word is perfectly true. And those contradictions don't matter to them because they're able to get some horrible mental gymnastics going on in their head to tell them why it makes sense that these things don't make sense. So at the end of the day,
that's why I think that maybe this is just I'm on a particular stone as I'm crossing the deconstruction river here, and as I'm leaping from stone to stone here, whatever, and I'm trying to hold on to. I don't want to chuck this book that I've been reading for the last 30-something years. And there are things in it that speak to me from on a philosophical level, on an emotional level, and just kind of in a historical of my own the history of my life. It's just been a presence, and being able to try and come up with a way to reconcile these obvious issues, these clear contradictions, has kind of become, I don't want to say an obsession, but it's certainly something that I've been preoccupied with, trying to think of like, is there a way to make this work? Is there a way to get around all of these? I mean, shit, man, you guys have, like listening to you guys has kind of fucked me up, or at least got me.
I'm sorry.
Maybe it's fucking me down instead of up, and it's like bringing me out of like this cloud that I'm in of religious haze or whatever. But it's struggle, I'm sure you guys have been there. Yeah, whatever, it ain't fun.
You don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Yeah, I get it.
Right.
Let me ask you a question.
So that's why I'm like trying to fire away.
I'm gonna fast forward your deconstruction process a little bit because it sounds eerily similar to mine. You don't want to just throw the whole Bible out, right? Because you want to hold on to something. You might start in like evangelical conservative Christianity and then move to liberal Christianity. You might have started with the Bible's inerrant and then realize, well, it's not actually inerrant. There's some errors in there. But if we keep walking down this road, here's where it's going to end up. Because it's not just that there's errors in the Bible, it's that the theology of the Hebrew Bible and the theology of the New Testament are in complete contradiction to each other. They don't agree on hardly anything. For example, the new heaven and new earth that gets created, that's quoted in Revelation 21, but that actually comes from Isaiah 65. In Isaiah 65, it says in the new heaven and new earth, people are still going to die. But in Revelation 21, it says they're going to live forever. Death is no more, pain is no more, sorrow is no more. That's just a straight up contradiction on the idea of living forever. The book of Job, there's a book, chapter 14 of Job, mentions that there is no life after death. You're not coming back, never. Never going to happen. Major contradiction. Another contradiction that's huge theologically is the Old Testament over and over again tells you to follow the laws for literally ever. In fact, he says it's easy. It's not too hard for you to follow these laws. He says in Deuteronomy 12:28.
That's the one that really has messed me up. That's the hard one for me, honestly. Like, right. I'm not Jewish. I was never raised Jewish or whatever, but it's like, as soon as it was pointed out to me, like, hey, by the way, you're not supposed to abandon everything in the Levitical laws or whatever just because there's a new covenant, because, hello, abolish doesn't mean fulfill.
Right. Not the same thing, right? So if Jesus says, I did not come to abolish the law, then you certainly can't use the word fulfill to claim that he abolished the law. That's asinine. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And the reality is, it's not until Jesus dies that people get this idea that we don't need the law anymore. The Old Testament says that when the Messiah comes, we're looking at Isaiah 2, Isaiah 11, and all of the Israelites are brought back into the land, and then the foreigners come to worship Yahweh, that the foreigners are going to be worshiping according to the laws as well. The law is going to go forth from Zion to the ends of the earth. And it says in Isaiah 56 that they're going to be obeying the Sabbath still and bringing actual burnt offerings to the sacrifice, to the altar. It says, my house will be a house of prayer for all people. We get the same thing in Jeremiah 33. In Jeremiah 33, 14 through 19, it talks about when the Messiah comes. And it says, when the Messiah comes, there's always going to be a king on the throne, and there will always be Levitical priests giving sacrifices of burnt offerings and grain offerings, actual physical sacrifices. Isaiah 66, the very last chapter, says more of the same. Levitical priests will be there forever in the Messianic age, New Jerusalem. The whole latter half of Ezekiel 46:19, literally talks about how the prince, the Messiah, and the Israelites are going to do literal sacrifices together in the renewed temple in the New Jerusalem. So when we get to like the book of Hebrews and we get to Acts chapter 10, Acts chapter 15, and certainly to, the book of Ephesians and the book of Romans and Galatians, where Paul is poo-pooing on the law, saying it's temporary, it's done away with, it's a temporary schoolmaster. This is not in agreement with the Hebrew Bible. They don't agree with each other on the most fundamental aspects of what God desires. And so
Jesus,
I think
Jesus never said any of that stuff, right? Jesus was never like all that stuff about like the law doesn't need to be followed anymore. That's all just Paul, right?
That came after Jesus. Yeah, the first thing that comes up is Paul. Paul immediately gets this idea that the law is no longer necessary because it is a barrier between the Gentiles and the Jews. That's why he says in Ephesians 2:14 that the barrier has been removed and all the requirements of the law have been abolished. A direct contradiction of what Jesus said. And he says in 1 Corinthians 9:20.
So was it just some sort of like logistical thing where he was like, it'll just be easier for us all to get along if we don't have to deal with these laws of the Old Testament?
I think that was Paul's goal. Paul's goal was that. But even of the Jews, he says you don't need this anymore. He says of himself in 1 Corinthians 9:20 that he is no longer under a law. A Jew, a Hebrew of Hebrews, he says. But no way he could be a Hebrew of Hebrews.
Or something, you know what I mean? Like it was just like he was just very fond of shellfish, and he was like, I just got to get rid of all of these so I can eat these.
I mean, his first incursion with bacon had to have done it in for him, I'm guessing.
Well, hey, let me just a tiny segue or non sequitur, if you'll indulge me. What do I do if I'm bringing these kind of observations up to family or friends or whatever, and I'm pointing these things out, and they're all like, I don't know, like almost unwilling to even look at me in the eye when I'm talking about this stuff, and feel, I don't know, what's the word? It's I don't know, like a light version of disgust that they won't even acknowledge these things that I am pointing out to them.
Yeah, it's a fair question. So here's what I know about talking to friends and family about this topic. You'll never convince them of your position. I think, so I don't purposely bring these things up with my family. Like if they come up in dialogue, I'm happy to talk to them about it, but it's not my intention to deconvert them, right? And the reality is, I'm like most of us, I'm going to tell them something. I'm going to show them in the
We're on now. Okay, great. All right. Hey, welcome back, everybody. I'm sorry we left you for a second. I know you were so frightened, but we're back now.
Now it's time for the post-rapture update.
we all had a near-death experience. Did you see what was behind you? Me neither. I don't know. It's flip, dude. Yeah, something went wrong in Texas. Texas broke. And it affected the whole stream. So I'm sorry about that. We did lose the caller, unfortunately, as well. They probably just heard silence and hung up. I lost connection a bit before then. Well, how'd the call go before the end?
We were having a good time until they got raptured.
Son of a bitch. Well, that blows, but we're back now and we have 3 calls left. So let's just chug along through those, I suppose.
I swear to Doug, if Kirk Cameron still left here after this call, I'm going to be upset.
Furious. Let's talk to Christian, pronouns he, him, possible theist, who's calling in from Phoenix, Arizona. Who wants to talk about something about this person? I've got a call screen answer here, so like, or an auto screen. Something about the heat death of the universe, and something about God, and something about some other stuff. Christian, you're on the line with Forrest and Justin. How you doing today?
Doing well. How are you?
Never had a bad day.
Doing well.
Fantastic. So, yeah, I know it was a little vague. I've kind of flip-flopped a bit regarding theology. It's embarrassing to admit, but I've learned a lot from you two. I'm very grateful to both of you for your channels and everything that you do. Deconstruction Zone, special shout out to that channel because I'm officially done with Christianity, but I'm still, I guess, desperately clinging to hope that there's some kind of existence beyond this brutal mutual shared reality, you know, a place for my loved ones. And but it seems less and less likely the more I learn about all the organized religions. That being said, you know, there are still a few things I don't understand, like kind of cosmological things. You know, I have no doubt that, you know, we've observed celestial bodies moving away from us and towards us, but, you know, nobody ever witnessed like the beginning of the Big Bang. So like, how do we know that it's not just infinite? How do we know that, you know, the universe isn't going to experience some cold heat death someday? All the fuel is going to be burned up, essentially, so to speak. And if so, where did that fuel come from? You know, I guess that's what I'm kind of getting at.
So there's a lot there. First off, I want to encourage you to call Aaron Adair, who is going to be on a couple of shows this week. He's a physicist, and he would be able to answer these questions a lot better than I could. Let's see here. That's going to be the where are we? We're right here. There's me and Justin, and so Aaron Adair is on tomorrow on Skeptalk with Gutsick Gibbon. And then on again on the Hang Up on Wednesday with Matt DeLundy. So if you want to talk to a physicist about this, I would talk to him. For me, I can tell you when we talk about the energy, like the fuel, so to speak, we're just talking about like expansion. We're just talking about things expanding. When we talk about the second law of thermodynamics, is that the total the whole universe is tending towards entropy. There's a couple of different ways to think about entropy. One of the ways is what we call disorder. But another way is just think about like the energy isn't being used for anything. So the whole point of like when we talk about how a reaction works, right? The whole point of what we call Gibbs free energy in chemistry is how much of the energy of a reaction or of a thing is actually available to do work, to make a change. And as you continue on with entropy, that number tends to go down, and you have less and less of this energy that's actually doing anything. It's just kind of dissipating. It's just there. And the whole point of the first law of thermodynamics is that the sum total of all the energy going in one direction, all the energy going in every other direction in the entire universe is all zero. There is the sum total, the entire change of energy is none. There is no energy created. There is no energy destroyed. It changes forms. It does some things, but less and less and less and less of it is available to make meaningful changes in the universe as time goes on. And so we can see.
So something would still exist, essentially, but
it just isn't interacting with anything. It isn't causing anything to happen. So like we can see what look like violations of this. It's not really, but like, for example, when we see a planet or a star or a galaxy or a living thing, we can see isolated pockets of the universe where entropy decreases and where we actually see disorder coming into order. But that only happens when there is a net gain in entropy for the rest of the universe as a whole. So, you know, I drive my car and I hit the brakes and I can hit the gas and I can make this car move. It's a very orderly reaction. The end result of a lot of that, a lot of the energy is being lost to heat, which is just dissipating completely randomly in all directions and isn't being used for anything, right? So entropy is still increasing even when I'm doing this thing that is very orderly and directed. When we talk about the heat death of the universe, what we're talking about is just at a certain point, the universe has expanded so much that the interaction between any two things is so distant, it's non-existent. And the energy is just fizzling out completely uselessly in all directions. There is no more work being done. The very last particles decay, and everything is at a complete standstill. There is no difference energetically between any one part of the universe and any other part of the universe, which means nothing means anything. Because space and time are constrained by relativity, if there is nothing to be relative to, these concepts are meaningless. Space and time mean nothing. Nothing means anything. Everything's done. That's what we're talking about with that kind of thing.
That makes sense. Yeah. I really do appreciate that. So, well, how does one find joy and meaning? How do you do it? How do you never have a bad day, knowing that, most of this is just likely nonsense?
There's a big difference between saying nothing matters with a frown, and saying nothing matters with a smile. I'm not constrained by any dogma or any dictates or any mandates. I don't owe anybody a justification or apology or explanation for who I am and what I want to be. I just get to live and make mistakes and enjoy, relatively speaking, a brief instant of sunshine and love and chicken wings and dancing and reggae and call-in shows. And that's awesome. And I'm very, very fortunate for that. And there have been lots and lots of days where I was devastated and miserable and sad and couldn't get up off the ground and laid on the shower and just couldn't bring myself to brush my teeth and just couldn't manage or imagine life going on. But it did.
Wow.
And the good thing about those days is that I have such a good life that I'm able to recognize those days as painful days. How wonderful. If I wasn't happy all the fucking time, I wouldn't know what it's like to be sad. And so the times when I am sad, I get to still smile a little bit. When I'm uncomfortable, I get to smile a little bit. When I'm heartbroken, I get to smile a little bit. When I can't think of a reason to smile, I get to smile a little bit, because that's part of the experience of life. And how fortunate am I to get to experience that? So many people don't. So many people get that cut short. Many, many more never really get started at all. And the possible lives out there that never began in the first place is completely incalculable. So I'm very, very happy for the opportunity to be here at all. And more importantly, I believe one of the cool things that Theodore Roosevelt once said is that the greatest gift that life gives us is the opportunity to work hard at work worth doing. And there's a whole shitload of work worth doing out there. And I get to work my ass off every day, studying science, teaching science, going out and doing charity work, giving speeches, coming on shows like this, helping people free themselves from the shackles of religion. How incredibly fortunate, how unbelievably lucky am I that I get to do all those things. So that's why I've never had a bad day, man. Of course, I've had painful days and hard days. And of course, there's lots of things to be sad about. But how lucky am I that I get to experience the good and the bad, the joy and the pain, the pride and the shame, every single bit of it. Life is good all the time, and all the time life is good.
Well, I'm really grateful that it sounds like you're living your best life, and you're giving a lot back as well. I could see that. I'm very grateful for this perspective. And
I hope it helps. I hope you find your own too. If you want to know where I got it, read some ancient Stoics like Seneca the Younger and Epictetus and a little bit of Marcus Aurelius, although he was a bit preachy. I really like Seneca. I really like Seneca a lot, and I really like Epictetus a lot. And just, if you look at ancient Stoicism and combine that with a little bit of cosmic nihilism, realizing that nothing in the universe makes a damn bit of difference, nothing really matters, nothing has any inherent meaning, and you're no more in control of anything that happens to you than you are in control of anything that happens to anybody on Mars, then suddenly the only thing you are responsible for and the only thing that you're worried about is your attitude and your effort. And as long as you can keep those two things positive, you're going to have a great time, even when things go bad.
I got to ask you one thing, if I may.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll ever honestly get some kind of irrefutable proof for the existence of a deity? After watching countless episodes, it just it doesn't seem likely.
Not gonna happen.
I'm not ruling anything out. Yeah, I'm not ruling anything out, but I'm not holding my breath either.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
A bit of advice on Seneca. Seneca said it's not that necessarily life is short, it's just that we waste so much of it. And I think one of the things we can really focus on is like, I don't know if I'm going to live for another 50 years. I don't know if I'm going to live for another 10 years. I know I'm alive today. Today I'm alive. So I'm going to live the shit out of today. It's going to be every day I wake up is a day I'm going to live the fuck out of. And I love the advice from Solomon in Ecclesiastes, or whoever wrote in his name, which is eat and drink, be merry, because tomorrow we may die. We don't know what tomorrow brings, but we know we are in control of it. We can decide what kind of day we're going to have.
Yep. Absolutely.
I think you guys are kicking butt at the game of God.
Tomorrow.
Definitely. I'm going to try and adopt these perspectives, and I appreciate the literature references. I'm going to rewatch this video so I can get those written down, check those out. I already intend to check out the book God Is Not Great by Christopher Hitchens, the late great orator.
It's a good one.
Big fan of both of you guys. Keep up the good work.
Don't tell me what to do.
Thank you so much.
See you later, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
There's a short little book by Seneca that's helpful on this topic called The Shortness of Life, or The Brevity of Life. You can read it in a weekend. I would definitely recommend it. I think you can pick it up for $10 at most bookstores. I think it'll help you a lot.
Most definitely.
Well, as I intend to try and make the most out of every day that I do have left, yeah, I'll definitely be looking into that.
Awesome. All right. Take care of yourself, Christian. See you later.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Yeah, something I was thinking about that today, actually, is that like literally I was kind of putting something off in my mind, and I was like, I don't want to fuck with this right now, and this is some project that I have, and I said, it's fine, I'll deal with this, whatever. And I was thinking about, when I'm 60, I'll do this and this and that, and then it just hit me again. I was like, I have no fucking guarantee that I'm gonna be 60, let alone that I'm gonna be doing any of these things at 60. I don't know if I'm gonna be alive tomorrow. I could have a fucking brain hemorrhage today. So like, I've got a little work to do. I'm going to get this done today. And I sat down here and I studied a little bit harder. I got some of the writing done that I've been putting off for the past week. And just that's the whole thing is I really love, I think it was Aristotle who referred to virtue as a practice. He said that it's not just something you have, it's something you do every day. And it's a muscle that you have to work out. And I feel like, really good use of your time, stoicism, that whole mentality that I live by and have lived by for as long as I can remember. It was ingrained in me when I was a kid, and I've grown with it my whole life. I feel like that's the same thing. I still catch myself sometimes wasting a little bit of time, and I love the idea that time you enjoyed wasting wasn't really wasted. That's great, but man, sometimes it just kind of hits me in the face like, hey, yo, you got to do so. You'll hear me say on this show frequently. I talk about how I'm dying soon. I don't have a terminal diagnosis. I just know that shit's happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I try to say that to remind myself that memento mori is such a big part of my philosophy. And so I hope more people can just kind of think about that, take the time to explore that, and take time to grieve yourself so that you can get on with the business of working really hard and enjoying every minute that you have. It's really useful.
And you're not alone. Like most people go through this. It's like the oldest tale we have in literature. Gilgamesh mourns for his friend Enkidu, realizes one day, shit, I'll die too. What do I do now? Right? So yes, the initial point where you realize you're mortal, that is the hardest point. But the sooner you can get to, what the fuck do I do now? The quicker you can get going and live in your life.
What was that whole thing that you did? The second birth is when you realize your mortality. I forgot what the fuck I don't know what that quote is from, or if I'm saying it right, but yeah, just you begin to live when you remember that you will die.
Right.
And that's just something really, really special, something that I love. Let's talk to Pepper, run on she, her, calling in from monkey oration. The guy said oration. I've got that in my head. And the reason why I say it so long is I can't get that out of my head. I want to say maggot orifice is what I want to say.
That's better.
And
I was hoping you were going to say monkey orifice. That I was like, we don't need anyone thinking about that. But now it's already out there, though.
It's in the ether. Pepper is a deconstructing theist who wants to ask if we've seen any effects in public libraries with the attacks been going on in them. Pepper, you're on the line with Forrest and Justin. How you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. It's Deborah, actually.
Oh, all right. Don't know where the hell we got Pepper from.
I don't know where that came
on the
from.
Screen. Well, you're Pepper now.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess it works.
All right, Deborah, what can we do for you?
I actually work for a public library in Missouri, which I'm sure everybody can understand, being from a very red, very conservative state, is hard. And I am just curious if you guys have seen in your day-to-day lives or your communities or anything like that, effects on the increased attacks on libraries and trying to take away funding and different things, because it's definitely something that we have seen an effect on at our library to an extent, and just curious about other people, if they've seen those.
Yeah.
Well, I think every state is handling it differently. I know that there were federal cuts to the libraries, if I remember correctly. Yeah. But as for the individual states, are they going to allocate funds from elsewhere to make up ground? I don't know. What I can tell you is that where I live specifically, I have not seen any libraries shutting down, and I do have quite a few friends that frequent the library on a weekly basis, and I haven't heard anything yet, right? Mm-hmm. But then again, it's much more likely that if you live in a metropolis, your libraries will probably find funding from somewhere. If you live in a small town, a farm community, or some sort of a suburb somewhere, you might not have the funding for that to pull from somewhere else. They might go away. So I think it's going to depend heavily on where you live and whether or not your local budget can account for it once the federal funding's gone.
Yeah,
it's not even just that.
I've visited my libraries. I haven't seen a significant change. They're a lot like the public schools here in Oklahoma, where they've been dealing with so little for so long that it's kind of hard to notice the difference. They're just doing their best, and they've got some really dedicated, amazing people. As far as like how they're handling the politics of everything, the librarians, just like many of the teachers here in Oklahoma, seem to be just staunchly on the side of progress, peace, and prosperity, as they always have, in defiance of the kind of hate and fascism that's been taking over our political landscape. The last time I went to the library near my house, I was trying to drop off a bunch of these little red cards, which everyone can get. You can download for yourself. You can order them, or you can download them from ilrc.org. That's the Immigrant Legal Resource Center. And on one side, it says in English, a bunch of things that you are to say to an ICE agent. I do not wish to speak to you, answer your questions, sign any documents under my rights under the Constitution. I do not give permission to enter my home. I give you permission to search my belongings. These are my constitutional rights. And on the back, it says in Spanish, no abra la puerta, do not open the door. No conteste ninguna pregunta, do not answer any questions. No firme nada, do not sign anything. Entregue esta tarjeta a la gente, give this card to the agent so they can read it. I was walking around the libraries around my city to give these out. Every fucking library already had a stack of them. Many of them had a stack of them on a little display thing for everybody to pick up right there at the entrance. And this was, just a couple of months ago. So the libraries here are doing their best to fight back, as are the scientists here, as are the universities here, as are the teachers here. And if we can pull that off in Oklahoma, I'm sure that the rest of the country, those people are fighting even harder.
Yeah, well, in Missouri, they actually tried last year, I believe, they had actually tried to take funding out of the state from libraries. Luckily, the library I work at is not. We're dependent on property taxes, and the majority of our revenue comes from that. But so we aren't extremely reliant on state or federal funding, but a lot of smaller libraries are. And luckily, the state did put it back in their budget, but I just know that libraries have been being hit from a lot of different directions because they're also a big part of homeless issues that come up in our community, and book bans and different things that people are trying to say that they tried to say that they put new laws into place about children's books, and basically trying to say that libraries were giving porn to children, which not the case, but that's what they essentially said, and they had a very vague law, and we had to rewrite our policies on it, and to make sure that we were very, very strict on how we were allowing children to check out books and things, and they were putting so much more of the onus on the libraries versus parents should be, watching their children. If they don't want their children to read certain things, then that's up to them, but it was putting a lot on the libraries. And now Missouri, don't know how many people have heard, but are doing a lot of property tax reform stuff that could very negatively affect libraries since they're very reliant on those fundings. So it's kind of being hit all over the place. And I was just curious because we hear a lot of that stuff. And like I said, one of our biggest things too is LGBTQ stuff and homeless, because we have a lot of homeless people that come into our libraries because they can get those resources, and we are open to everyone, and not everyone likes that that's the case. And same with anything books to do with LGBTQ are always, a big source of hate from a lot of people. So I was just curious. I didn't know if other states were seeing that as much, or if people were actually seeing the impacts on the communities.
I think we will soon, but it's hard to know to what extent.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all spread so thin.
Yeah, that's kind of how we are. Yeah, we're kind of on
everybody.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, we kind of are just, kind of in a place of limbo, because we don't know how things are going to go. And so we're trying to look to the future, and we're trying to make sure that we have our programming and have our collections and have those resources for people. And a lot of people don't understand how much libraries have outside of books. But yeah, it's just a place of limbo,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would encourage everybody watching this to download the 5 Calls app. It's a really handy way to get a hold of your senators and representatives and, anybody else who's relevant to a bunch of issues. It'll give you a bunch of issues that are politically salient at this moment. It gives you a script to read if you want to do that. And it tells you who is in charge of actually handling those things. And you just literally push a button, and it gives you everything you want to call. And you can call your reps every single fucking day. Every single day. And if they don't pick up and they start ignoring your calls, like they do to me at this point, they don't even pick up anymore. They recognize my voice and my phone number. It's like I literally pick up like, "Hey, Forrest." I'm like, "Hey, do you care about genocide yet?" And they're like, "No." But you can also fax them. There are lots of websites where you can send them faxes. And they get those. They can't ignore those, and that costs resources. So there's a lot you can do if you would like to get a hold of your representatives in Congress and tell them how much you care about libraries and education and homeless people and immigrants and LGBT people and genocide and all sorts of other issues that you have, and try to make them at least pretend for 1 minute that they work for you and not some billionaire that pays their salary by lobbying the hell out of them. You can play that game and bother the hell out of them, and it's a great stress relief. If you're ever overworked, overwhelmed, anxious, need to burn off some steam, take it out on your representatives. Give them a call. Give them a fax. Let them know how you feel.
Yeah. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. Be the squeaky wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was also just going to say, since you're talking about talking to like the legislators and everything, I'd also encourage everybody to, actually look at what their public library offers outside of books and stuff. Because I know with our library, we do so many programs for adults, teens, kids. We even have like a murder mystery thing we do. And we do all kinds of things. And a lot of people don't understand that, it's more than just books nowadays. It's not just like old-time libraries where you just go in to check out books.
Yeah, no, seriously. Do you want to talk about, like, I'm pretty sure they have fax machines there, by the way, fax reps. Talk about free internet access, talk about free faxing, communications, talk about job training programs, interview skills, and things like that. So there's some libraries that have fucking seed libraries where you can check out seeds and plant gardens. There are some libraries you can check out taxidermied animals and shit for study. There are libraries where you can get not just books, but you can get movies, magazines, newspapers, CDs, records. You can listen to your favorite podcasts and read things that are behind a paywall. Go to your library, ask them about it. It is unbelievable the amount. There's a lot of libraries that rent out equipment as well. You want to watch a movie with your friends? Go rent a projector from your library and put it up on a big screen in your living room. You can do that.
Yeah, our library actually has like fishing stuff too, like fishing rods, and we also have hotspots that people can rent out if they need to have internet at their house for something, for like an interview or something. So it's really cool. But your call screener actually pointed out something to me that I didn't kind of understand, because I am a deconstructing theist, probably well on my way to atheist. I just haven't gotten over that hurdle yet. And your call screener said something that I kind of hadn't really thought about, but that everything to do with how libraries and everything are happening probably are adding to that deconstructing. And I think it is, because it seems like it's a lot of, unfortunately, Christians that tend to attack those things that I think are the best for libraries in the community.
Why would God's chosen leader decide that they want to harm the society that they're supposed to manage? It's a hard one to swallow.
Yeah.
Well, Deborah,
thank you.
We're here for you. We do the best we can. We're here for you, and I would recommend, if I don't know what they could do, but we raise hundreds of $1,000s for the Secular Student Alliance. Maybe there's some sort of potential for collaboration there between your local library and an organization of secular students who could come out and do some work for you. That would be my first thoughts, because if people who love education, they tend to stick together.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Sorry that my call wasn't heated.
No, do you want to say something shitty? You have a minute if you want to be like racist or transphobic. Turn it up a notch.
No, I definitely don't want to be any of those things. I try to be a good person for the most part. So.
Hell yeah. Right on.
I can hope that nobody will ever say that I'm any of those things.
We can all hope that. Thank you so much, Deborah. I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate what you do.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
She sounds like an honest individual, which makes sense why she's deconstructing, because in order to read the Bible and stay in this faith, can't be honest.
No, you just can't. You just can't. We have one last call for the night, and it is a philosophical one again. But hopefully we can, there's something more that we haven't already said. We've got Matt, pronouns they, them, calling in all the way from the barren wasteland that is Australia, who wants to talk about my take on nihilism and the value of life. Matt, you are at long last on the line with Forrest and Justin. How are you doing today?
Hey, yeah, I'm all right. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right.
Cool. No silly hats?
I'm sorry, what was that?
I could say...
I heard something about hats.
Oh, yeah, you were talking about getting silly hats. That didn't happen?
Oh, yeah, no, we went offline for a minute, and I thought it would be great if we could come in, like, dressed insanely and just like, where did we go? But no, I realize I don't have many opportunities to say this, but I've never had a bad day. Never, ever had a bad day. Never had a bad day. Never had a bad day. Never had a bad day. That's for that person in the chat who has to do push-ups every time I say that. I've never had a bad day.
That's part of my question, actually.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just dropped my earbud. All right, I'm back. All right. You talk about what you call smilism. Nothing matters, so everything matters. So you just try and do what you can because you're here. Does that sound right?
Something along those lines, yeah.
Yeah, cool. That kind of is how when you describe that, I'm like, that sounds like me. But this might be a personal question, but you kind of went into it with the last call with Christian. I came to that as a survival mechanism for depression. So I was just curious if that's how you got to it.
I don't know.
Maybe. Fair enough.
I think nihilism and depression are friends sometimes. They appear together, but they don't have to.
Okay, yeah. I'm fine, by the way. Don't worry about me. I'm good.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you're insinuating that you're experiencing both.
Right.
Okay.
No, I'm the best I've ever been, but it's still part of who I am. But that's how I got to this.
And the best is yet to come.
Hopefully, yeah. So I guess my other question was the value of life. If nothing matters, why is life important?
It's not. It's no more important than anything else.
Yeah, it's kind of my thought.
Cool.
Like, we've decided
cool
we're important because we're us.
Yeah, and like I understand that, like, I understand what it feels like to suffer, and I know I'm not the only thing that's capable of doing that, and so I don't want other things to do that because it kind of sucks. And I understand that life is as nonsensical and as silly and as unimportant as it is, because it is just another thing. It is also pretty rare as far as I can tell, and that makes it somewhat precious as far as precious things are concerned. And so when I see a bug crawling around on the ground, I try to be kind to it, because I feel like that's the best thing that living things can do, is be kind. And does that mean that I've never squashed a cockroach or killed a fly in my life? Absolutely not. But does that mean that I'm going to not go out of my way to traumatize and kill and smush things? Yeah, of course. Yeah. I'm like, if that's something that I think about all the time. I like bugs because they're alive and I'm alive, and they've never hurt me too bad, and I'm trying not to do bad by them. And I can say the same thing by just about everything else. And I think about all the things that I've killed just to stay alive, all the things that I eat every day, plants and animals and fungi. I think about all the things that I kill when I brush my teeth in the morning, and I think about all the things that I step on without noticing it, and all the things that I kill by having my house where it is and driving my car and all those things. And so if any living thing ever, stings me or bites me or scratches me or makes me sneeze, like, all right, fuck, that's one for me. All right, now I'll keep on going with my life and everything's okay and we're all friends. And just be kind. Just because life doesn't matter doesn't mean you have to be a shit about it. Be kind to things, especially small things. And that's a great way for you to be good in your life. And that's all you can worry about. Don't worry about everybody else's life. You worry about your life and try to be kind in it. That's all I want to be when I grow up. I want to be kind.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, kind of what again, I'm okay. But because so my instinct for a long time was, I'm not important. I'm not here for me. I'm not getting anything out of life. So all I can do is to try and help other people get what they want and try and make their life better because I'm not important.
Mm-hmm.
So does that, I don't know.
Yeah.
What's that sound like to you?
If I'm understanding you correctly, yeah, I'm going to try to make everybody else's life better because I'm not that important. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to treat myself well. That doesn't mean that I'm going to be hard on myself unnecessarily. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to take care of myself or I'm going to neglect myself. It just means that I'm not going to put myself on some pedestal beyond self-preservation and trying to stay alive. I'm not the most important person in the room. I'm not any more important than anybody else.
Good, yeah.
So I'm not gonna try to be an asshole. I don't know, Justin, do you have anything you want to throw in on this? Because I feel like it's just me talking about my personal feels, and that's not what this show's about.
I mean, the rich and the poor share the same grave. The reality is, death is the great equalizer. It's the most humbling event that we're all going to experience, and it should help to keep us grounded. It should help to remind us that the person over there they're no different than us. They've got a different set of circumstances, but they're no different than us. And if we were in their circumstances, how would we like to be treated in this short time we have on this spinning rock hurtling through space? I know that in the end, it doesn't really matter. The sun's going to swallow us up. We're going to collide with the Andromeda galaxy, but it matters to somebody right now. You know what I mean? It matters to you, right? There are things that matter to you. So if there are things that matters to you, there are things that matter to everybody else. And so since we're here, might as well make it worth it.
Yep. Shout out to the person in chat who said that Justin will have a different answer because he has a child. Don't use your philosophy to assume other people's philosophy. Sounds like Justin and I are on the same page about this.
Cool. So one more question then. When the question comes up, because I debate people about atheism and stuff online, and they come up, you're atheists don't even know what a woman is. I try and explain, people aren't defined by their genitals and all that, and all the stuff that I've learned from you. But my personal kind of answer to that question is, I don't care. Like, why would I care what a woman is? They're people. Yeah. Do you think that's problematic in any way, or is that? What do you think?
I mean, if you're a cisgender person talking to another cisgender person, I think that's perfectly fine. I would give the answer that I give as someone with a background in anthropology and biology is that a woman is a person whose gender identity aligns with aligns with the social, cultural, behavioral, and or physical characteristics that they associate with femininity. So that way it gets you out of that trap of saying a woman identifies as a woman, because then they're going to say, oh, it's circular, as if that makes any fucking sense. It also helps elucidate the fact that all social identity, all social identity is based on self-identification. But most importantly, it aligns with what we know about what gender is on a broad spectrum. The only necessary condition for being a man is to have a gender identity that aligns with the social, cultural, behavioral, and or physical characteristics that you associate with masculinity. And similarly to a woman, and if you don't have any of that, then I would probably call you non-binary. But if you try to go for a physical thing, and if you're in a conversation with somebody who thinks that there's some, you have to have this chromosome, this hormone, this organ, whatever like that, I would just ask them, like the way that Jovan Bradley just says it is, what is the necessary condition for being a woman? And a lot of people have trouble with that term, necessary condition. They think that they can have a necessary condition that has exceptions, which that's not what fucking necessary condition means. The way that I phrase it is, here's my challenge. If you want to say that you can define this in a better way, give me one single physical characteristic that all cisgender women and transgender men have, no cisgender men or transgender women have, and is purely physical. One thing that you can use define every single without exception. Right, but that has plenty of exceptions. And the fact of the matter is, like, take a vagina, for example. You can be a man who is cisgender with XY chromosomes and all these things and have persistent Mullerian duct syndrome and have it a part of a vagina or even some more of a vagina tucked up inside you that you don't even know is there. And like, you know, or you could have a million that does it. Like, a vagina is neither a necessary nor is it a sufficient condition for being a woman, because there are also cisgender women, XX chromosomes and all the other things you like to point to, that have Mullerian agenesis that don't develop those structures, you know? And so, like, the next argument when you say those things is people say, oh, well, that's just such a small exception. Okay, then it's not a necessary condition. If 10 billion people all identified as women have this structure and one of them doesn't, it's not a necessary condition. So what is the actual necessary thing? What is the one thing that you can point to that all cisgender women and all transgender men have, and no transgender women and no cisgender men have, and is only based on a physical characteristic? The one thing. They're fucking, find me one. I dare you. Otherwise, we're going to have to take the accepted understanding of gender as accepted by anthropology, psychology, sociology, biology, medicine, all the best doctors and scientists in the world, all united in this, that sex and gender are different things, and they're not necessarily congruent. And because gender is a social construct, by definition, it cannot possibly be a binary. That is literally in introductory biology textbooks, literally introductory sociology, literally introductory anthropology. Pick up a 1,000 level textbook in any of these topics, and you will learn this. So, who's wrong? All the best doctors and scientists in the world, every major medical association in the country, the World Health Organization, all the universities and all the professors at those universities, or this motherfucker who says that boys have penises.
According to them, everyone else. But yeah. Oh, I can't hear you. You talking?
That was it. That was. I hope that summarizes the position for you.
It does. I'd have to learn a lot to be able to use that argument, though. That's the problem.
That's fine. There's a lot of information out there. I have a video on my channel called Sex and Sensibility where I detail out a lot of this stuff. I included a reference list, a resource list in the description of that video, full of citations that I did use, full of citations that I didn't use. And also, I mentioned several times in the video a bunch of stuff where I'm like, hey, this was the historical view on this. There's citations for that too. So you can see all the ways that people disagreed with me in the past. But I would just encourage you, like, dig into it more. If there's a lot that you don't know about that and it's interesting to you, what a wonderful opportunity you have to go pull out some textbooks and dig into this a little bit more. And if you're not interested in it at all, then I think the I don't fucking know or care argument is just as fine.
Okay, cool. I'm interested. It's just that, I don't know, there are other things I'm maybe more interested in. It's more about leave people alone. Why can't they understand that?
Right? You would think that would be easy, but it simply is not, unfortunately.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that was all my questions. Hang on, I've got notes. I had one more, but I think we covered it. It was just that I think you said that there's actually no, going back to why is life valuable, what I've written is that you've said in the past that there's no actual definition of life. So if we can't define what it is, how can it be more important than anything else? But I guess you kind of covered the answer to that.
Yeah, and the thing about life, we define it by noting characteristics that it has. It has 7 qualifications that we use to define what life is, and not even every living thing has all those 7 qualifications. In fact, one of those qualifications is evolution. Sorry?
What's that? Yeah. You said like nothing actually has all 7 of those. But
yeah, so,
what's that illusion?
One of them is evolution, which necessarily happens to populations, not individuals. So we can describe life We can point out what life does, but there is no definition. And here's a fun fact for you calling into this show. There's no good definition for religion either. It's just a thing that does some stuff. Like, that's kind of a fun thing about it. And that's the way it is with a lot of things. So life isn't even special in that. It's not even special in not being special. How wild is that?
Yeah.
Anyway, with that, Matt, we're going to wrap up the show unless you have anything else for us.
Just something you reminded me of. Define what a book is. There's no way to do that.
Yep. Yeah. Define what a chair is.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, that's just the nature of things. And so, if anybody asks you what a woman is, first off, you can ask them the same question back and it goes poorly. Or also ask them to define literally fucking anything else. Because that's the thing. And if they pull up the dictionary, remind them. Dictionaries don't define words. They describe usages.
Yeah, but, facts don't matter. But yeah, thanks.
Facts don't matter, right? Anyway, take care of yourself, Matt. I appreciate you. Have an awesome rest of your day.
Oh, wait, hang on. Sorry. I was meant to say it's a article. It doesn't matter, but I called you maybe, I don't know, a few months ago about slavery and pet ownership. Do you remember that?
No.
Okay, fair enough. That's cool. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Equating slavery to owning a pet is not a great comparison. We care for our pets. We don't make our pets slave. Not that there couldn't be some exceptions, like horses are work animals, but they.
Who knows, man? Really quickly, while we're here, by the way, this over here, I just love pulling out a good old textbook whenever I can. Campbell Biology Concepts and Connections. This is the 10th edition. It's the newest one. This is used for like undergrad students, or even college freshmen are just fine. Even high school students. And here we have this page about sex and gender. I skipped down to page 221. And we can zoom in a little bit here. Let me see if I can zoom in. Yes. Get that on the screen there. The biochemical, physiological, and anatomical features associated with males and females are turning out to be more complex than previously realized, with many genes involved in their development. We now know that sex is not a binary state with just two defined outcomes. Because of the complexity of the genes and proteins involved in sex determination, many variations exist. Some individuals are born with intermediate sexual or intersex characteristics, or even with anatomical features that do not match an individual's sense of their own gender, known as transgender individuals. Sex determination is an active area of research that should yield a more sophisticated understanding in years to come. And here at the bottom, we have I don't know if I can get that on the screen. We have the test question down here at the bottom that says, does development of ovaries necessarily mean that a human has two X chromosomes? And the answer upside down, no. It talks about, in this case, it would be De La Chapelle syndrome. That it's talking about here, the human could be carrying XY chromosomes, but the SRY gene on the Y chromosome could be missing or mutated. You could also have it, move to somewhere else. You could have that SRY gene translocated onto another X chromosome. That would be De La Chapelle. Sorry, this would be SRY Swire syndrome, not De La Chapelle syndrome. Pardon me. This is describing Swire syndrome. A person could be XY and still have ovaries. So literally, like I said, literally basic biology textbooks. And that's just one. I've got like 5 or 6 more within arm's reach of me right now. That one I happen to have as a PDF, but I can pull out over here behind me. I've got a couple of biology textbooks there that have it. My old genetics textbook has it. My old anthropology textbook has it. There's a human biology textbook right there that has it. Like, this is not news. This is 100-year-old science at this point. Keep up, transphobes. But again, transphobes,
but have you
like
considered
all science deniers.
The Bible?
Of course, yes. The thing that says that grasshoppers have 4 legs? Who knew? Maybe it could be a resource. Bats are birds and men and women are binary. Thanks, Bible. And that's honestly, it is fun because I talk about this a lot, but transphobes, they're no different than flat earthers, anti-vaxxers, you name it. They are just the same kind of science denier as any creationist or whatever else. Every scientist in the world is wrong. This is all modern science. It wasn't around when I was in school. This is a big conspiracy that all these universities are all in on to try to disrupt our culture, try to disrupt who we are as people. That there's this global communication network of all these elites that are all trying to keep you pinned down for some sort of economic reason, some sort of cultural reason, whatever it may be. That this is all to get us away from God. This is all to get us away from civilization. This is all the way to get us away from whatever. That there's money involved, that they're making money off of the surgeries and the hormones and the drugs and the blah, 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 blah. And literally any of that you can apply to any of those other things. And it's all the fucking same. And it all means the same nonsense. Science denialism, y'all. It's a bad time. Justin, that's the end of the show. Do you have anything you want to say before we wrap up? I've been talking for a long fucking time.
Well, I had a lot of fun. Unfortunately, it seemed that the theists weren't up to the task to call in and challenge us today. It's kind of shameful that we had so many atheists come up, even some agnostics come up with some interesting talking points, but not like a single Christian or a Muslim or anybody. It's almost like I don't know, maybe they're scared or they don't have any good talking points. I don't know. I'm probably wrong.
Who knows, man? Who knows? I would say, like, we had one guy calling in to say the Bible's true, and it was weird. And that guy left saying, all right, I guess I need to think about this more because these are just, you guys have changed my mind on some things. And we had one person calling in to say the Bible was intentionally that way. And they died halfway through the call because Jesus came to Texas. But like beyond that, I just don't think we learned anything. Didn't hear any new arguments, didn't hear anything novel. I will leave you with the words of Jesus. They. That's Matthew 10:36. He says they. So Jesus loves the enemies. There you go.
Dynamite word.
That's for you. Yeah. That's our show, everybody. Sorry you had to watch it. Thank you so much to Justin for being my incredible co-host. I love working with you, dude. Hope you get to it more often. Thank you so much to Luthien Starfell for being our producer tonight. Thank you to her and Stephanie Stephanie Helms for being our call screeners. Thank you to the mods in chat. Thank you to the people in chat for being the ones that suck. Thank you to our callers, even the ones that suck. Thanks for whoever's doing the timestamp this week. Have an awesome rest of your day. Never stop.